After years of togetherness, my wife looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're not valuable enough to be my husband. I'll find someone more superior." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just smiled and walked away. And that single sentence flipped my entire life upside down. Before I tell you everything, do me a quick favor, tap subscribe, drop a comment about where you're watching from, and help this story reach the people who might need it. Now let me take you back to how it all started. I'm Jason, I'm 32 now, and for a long time I thought I had my future figured out. Lauren and I met in our mid-20s through mutual friends at a casual get-together in Raleigh. Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic. We just clicked. We liked the same dumb comedy shows, argued playfully about food spots, and could sit in silence without it feeling awkward. That kind of comfort makes you believe you've found your person. The first couple of years were honestly great. We moved into a place at Oak Ridge Lofts after about a year and a half. My parents had their opinions, but I brushed them off. Lauren felt like home back then. She used to leave me notes on the fridge, send me memes during work, and insist we never go to bed angry. It felt solid. When I proposed near Jordan Lake, it wasn't flashy. Just the two of us, a quiet moment, and a ring I picked because it reminded me of her, simple, clean, elegant. She said yes instantly. I remember feeling like I'd crossed some invisible finish line in life. But about a year after that, things shifted. Not all at once. That's the dangerous part. It was slow enough that I kept making excuses. It started with comments. Small ones. Lauren would suggest I dress sharper if we were meeting her friends. She'd joke that I should hit the gym harder if I wanted to keep up with successful couples she followed online. At first, I laughed it off. Everyone teases, right? Then the comments stopped sounding like jokes. She questioned my job, not outright insulting it, but comparing. "Brandon makes 6 figures already," she'd say casually, scrolling her phone. Or, "Nicole's husband just got promoted again." It always came wrapped in concern, like she just wanted the best for us. Slowly, I started believing I was behind. I worked longer hours. Took extra certifications. Changed the way I dressed. Even changed how I spoke around her friends so I wouldn't sound basic. I didn't realize it then, but I was shrinking myself to fit an image she kept moving further away. The breaking point came on a random Tuesday night. We were sitting in the living room talking about future plans, kids, timing, finances. Nothing heated at first. Then she sighed, that long exhausted sigh that already tells you you're about to be told something you won't like. She said she wasn't sure about building a family with me. I asked why. Calmly. I really wanted to understand. That's when she said it. She looked at me like she'd already made peace with her decision and said I wasn't valuable enough to be her husband. That she needed someone more accomplished, more impressive. Someone superior. I expected anger. I expected heartbreak. Instead, something inside me snapped into clarity. I smiled. Not sarcastically. Not bitterly. Just calm. Her face twisted in confusion. She asked what was funny. I told her she was right about one thing, we shouldn't be together. Not because I wasn't enough, but because I finally realized I didn't want to spend my life auditioning for someone who kept moving the goalposts. I grabbed my keys and left. I stayed with my friend Caleb and Carrie that night. The tears didn't come immediately. What came first was relief. Like setting down a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying for years. Lauren's text started the next day. First angry. Then apologetic. Then cold again. She said I'd regret this. Said I'd never find someone who'd push me to be better the way she did. I didn't respond. Over the next few weeks, I moved into a small apartment in North Hills. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I decorated it how I wanted. Ate what I wanted. Lived without being measured. That's when I started to feel like myself again. I heard through mutual friends that Lauren had started dating someone new almost immediately, Brandon, the same guy she used to casually compare me to. According to gossip, he checked all her boxes. Ambitious. Flashy. Confident. Good for her, I thought. And I meant it. Months passed. Life settled. I focused on work, friends, and rebuilding my sense of worth. I wasn't dating seriously. I didn't feel rushed anymore. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't expect. It was Melissa, Lauren's sister. She was crying. And that's where things started to get interesting. Melissa's voice was shaking so badly that for a second I thought someone had died. I pulled my car over into a quiet side street just to focus on what she was saying. She apologized before I could even ask what was wrong, said she knew it was awkward calling me after everything, but she didn't know who else to talk to. She told me Lauren had been spiraling. At first, I didn't know how to respond. Lauren hadn't been my responsibility for months, and I'd worked hard to build that emotional distance. But Melissa wasn't calling to stir drama. She was calling because she felt guilty for staying quiet when she'd seen things going wrong long before I walked out. According to her, Lauren's new relationship wasn't what it looked like from the outside. Brandon had proposed quickly, more for optics than love, and the engagement was already cracking under pressure. He was exactly what Lauren said she wanted, ambitious, confident, socially impressive, but he also expected the same constant validation Lauren demanded from others. Two people competing for superiority instead of building something together. Melissa admitted something that hit me hard. She said Lauren had compared Brandon to me more than once, usually when she was upset or insecure. Not because she missed me, but because she missed the stability I brought, the calm, the loyalty, the way I didn't treat love like a competition. I thanked Melissa for being honest, told her I hoped things worked out peacefully for everyone, and ended the call feeling strangely detached. Not numb, just finished. A week later, Caleb convinced me to come to a small get-together. I didn't want to at first. Social events still felt exhausting, like I had to explain my life to people who hadn't lived it. But I went anyway. That's where I met Hannah. She wasn't loud or flashy. She didn't dominate conversations or try to impress anyone. We ended up talking in the kitchen while everyone else crowded the living room, comparing terrible childhood snacks and laughing about how adulthood never looks the way it's advertised. What stood out was how easy it felt. No performance. No pressure. Just mutual curiosity. We exchanged numbers. I didn't overthink it. Coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into dinners. Weeks passed without me noticing the time. Hannah asked questions and actually listened to the answers. She never made me feel like I was behind in life or lacking. She just seemed happy to be present. About 3 months into dating Hannah, I got my first message from Lauren since the breakup. It was short. I heard you're seeing someone. Guess you moved on fast. I stared at the screen for a while, then put my phone down without replying. More messages followed over the next few weeks. Never direct apologies. Just nostalgia. Little reminders of inside jokes. Subtle guilt wrapped in casual language. I didn't engage. Then came the turning point. One evening, Hannah and I were cooking dinner together, nothing fancy, just pasta and a playlist playing softly in the background, when my phone lit up again. This time, Lauren didn't text. She called. Hannah looked at me, then at the screen, and asked gently, "Do you want to answer?" I shook my head and let it ring. The voicemail that followed was long. Lauren's voice sounded different. Less sharp. Less certain. She said things hadn't worked out the way she expected. That Brandon had ended the engagement unexpectedly, engaged to someone else within weeks. Apparently, he'd reconnected with an old flame and realized he didn't want the life Lauren was trying to build. The irony wasn't lost on me. The messages after that were more direct. Lauren said she'd made a mistake. That she'd been scared of settling and had confused love with competition. That I'd been safe and she'd mistaken that for boring. She asked if we could talk. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I didn't need closure from someone who'd already shown me who they were. A few days later, Lauren texted again, this time while I was sitting on the couch next to Hannah, her head resting against my shoulder as we watched a movie. I think about you all the time. I know I hurt you. I just want a chance to explain. Hannah glanced at my phone when it buzzed. She didn't ask questions. She didn't react emotionally. She just smiled and said, "You don't owe anyone access to your peace." That sentence stuck with me. Time kept moving. Hannah met my parents. I met hers. Everything felt steady. Real. Not rushed, but intentional. Then one night, months later, something unexpected happened. Hannah picked up my phone. Not to snoop. Not out of suspicion. It was charging on the counter while I was in the shower, and Lauren's name popped up again, another long message filled with regret, nostalgia, and what-ifs. Hannah read it. When I came back into the room, she handed me the phone calmly and said, "She's still trying to rewrite the past." I asked if she was upset. She shook her head. "No. I just think it's sad." That's when I realized how different this relationship was. No insecurity. No power struggles. Just clarity. Lauren sent a final message a week later, saying she hoped I was happy and that maybe in another life things would have been different. I never replied. Because I was happy. Not because my life was perfect, but because I was finally with someone who never made me feel like I had to earn my place beside them. And the irony? The woman who once said I wasn't valuable enough now couldn't stop trying to prove that she was wrong. But by then, I didn't need her to understand. I already had everything I needed. By the time the leaves started turning that fall, my life looked nothing like it had a year earlier. The chaos, the self-doubt, the constant feeling that I was being measured and found lacking, all of it felt distant, like a version of myself I barely recognized anymore. Hannah and I had settled into something that didn't need constant explanation or reassurance. It just worked. We didn't rush anything. We talked openly about expectations, fears, boundaries. The things Lauren and I had avoided until they exploded. Hannah never treated those conversations like negotiations or ultimatums. They were just two people figuring out how to build something solid. That's when Lauren resurfaced again. This time, it wasn't a late-night emotional text or a nostalgic message. It was a carefully worded email. Subject line, just wanted to clear the air. I almost didn't open it. Curiosity got the better of me, not because I missed her, but because I wanted to see if anything had actually changed. The email was long. Apologetic in tone, reflective in language. She admitted she'd been chasing an image instead of a partner. She said she'd confused ambition with worth and superiority with love. She even acknowledged implied comparisons she'd made between me and other men. It read like something she'd rehearsed or maybe written with advice from someone else. Toward the end, she asked if I'd meet her for coffee. Just to talk. Just for closure. I sat there staring at my laptop for a long time. A year ago, I might have agreed. I would have felt obligated to hear her out, to prove I was mature enough to handle it. Now, all I felt was indifference. I closed the laptop without replying. That night, I told Hannah about the email. I didn't hide anything. Transparency had become our default. She listened quietly, then asked a simple question. Do you feel like you need to say anything to her? I thought about it honestly and said no. Then don't, she said. Closure doesn't have to involve the person who hurt you. That was another lesson I didn't know I needed. A few weeks later, Caleb mentioned he'd run into Lauren at a mutual friend's birthday party. Apparently, she'd spent most of the night talking about me, about how she'd messed up and how she now understood what she'd lost. Caleb said it wasn't dramatic, just sad. Like someone finally realizing the cost of their choices when it was too late. I felt nothing hearing that. No satisfaction. No bitterness. Just confirmation that walking away had been the right call. Around that same time, Hannah and I took a weekend trip to the mountains. Nothing luxurious. Just a cabin, hiking trails, and bad cell service. One night, sitting by the fire, she asked me something that caught me off guard. Do you ever worry you'll wake up one day and realize I'm not enough? The question wasn't insecure, it was honest. I answered just as honestly. I told her that being with her had shown me how different love feels when it's rooted in mutual respect instead of evaluation. That I didn't feel like I was constantly auditioning for my place in her life. That alone made all the difference. She smiled and said, good. Because I never want to be someone you have to earn. That night, I realized I loved her. Not the intense, anxious kind of love that feels like you might lose it at any moment, but the steady kind that feels like coming home. A few months later, Lauren tried one last time. This time, she didn't contact me directly. She reached out to Hannah. I found out because Hannah told me immediately. Lauren's message was long and emotional. She apologized to Hannah for crossing boundaries, said she didn't mean to disrespect our relationship. Then she pivoted, talked about our past, how deep our connection had been, how people make mistakes when they're afraid. Hannah read it once, then showed it to me without commentary. I asked how she felt about it. She shrugged. It's not about me. It's about her trying to feel better. She replied politely but firmly. She told Lauren she hoped she found peace, but that contacting either of us again wasn't appropriate. She wished her well and ended it there. Lauren didn't respond. That silence felt final. Life moved forward. Hannah and I moved in together. We argued occasionally, about dishes, about thermostat settings, about whose turn it was to plan dinner, but those arguments never attacked our worth. They were just logistics, not judgments. One night, while unpacking boxes in our new place, I found an old photo of Lauren and me tucked into a book I hadn't opened in years. For a moment, I felt a flicker of nostalgia. Not longing, just acknowledgement. That chapter had mattered. It had taught me something. I threw the photo away. A few weeks later, Hannah and I hosted a small gathering at our place. Friends, laughter, music playing in the background. At one point, someone asked how we met, and Hannah told the story with a smile. No tension. No comparison. Just appreciation. That's when it really hit me. I wasn't healing anymore. I was healed. Lauren didn't disappear from the world. I heard bits and pieces through mutual acquaintances, new job, therapy, moving cities. I wished her well genuinely. But she no longer occupied any space in my emotional life. The man she'd called not valuable enough had built a life that didn't require her approval. And the best part? I didn't smile back then because I knew I'd win someday. I smiled because, in that moment, I finally chose myself. And that choice changed everything. By the time a full year had passed since the day Lauren told me I wasn't valuable enough to be her husband, my life had settled into something steady, quiet, and deeply real. The kind of life that doesn't need constant validation or dramatic moments to feel meaningful. Hannah and I were married by then, nothing extravagant, no performance for social media. Just close friends, family, and vows that felt like promises instead of expectations. Marriage with Hannah didn't feel like an upgrade or a trophy. It felt like alignment. We moved into a modest place on the outskirts of Raleigh, close enough to work and friends but far enough to feel like our own world. Mornings were calm. Coffee brewing, soft conversation, sometimes silence that felt comfortable instead of heavy. That alone told me everything I needed to know about how different this relationship was from my past. Then, unexpectedly, Lauren resurfaced one last time. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Hannah and I were cleaning up after lunch, music playing quietly in the background, when my phone buzzed on the counter. Hannah glanced at the screen before I did and froze, not startled, just surprised. "It's her," she said calmly. I nodded. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. Mostly, I was curious about why now. Hannah handed me the phone. Lauren had sent a long message, longer than any before. It wasn't dramatic or manipulative this time. It was tired. Honest, maybe for the first time. She wrote that she'd heard I was married. That she hoped I was happy. That therapy had forced her to confront how much of her self-worth had been tied to comparison and control. She admitted she'd measured love the wrong way, by status, by optics, by superiority, and that she'd destroyed something real because she couldn't sit with insecurity. She didn't ask me to come back. She didn't even ask for forgiveness. She just said she was sorry. Hannah watched my face while I read it. When I finished, she asked softly, "Do you want to respond?" I thought about it for a moment. Not because I felt pulled back, but because I wanted to be intentional. Then I shook my head. "No," I said. "I think this is where it ends." Hannah smiled and wrapped her arms around me. That was it. No debate. No jealousy. No fear. Lauren never texted again. A few months later, we hosted a small gathering at our place. Friends laughing on the patio, food on the grill, music drifting into the evening air. At some point, Caleb pulled me aside, grinning. "You know," he said, "I ran into Lauren's sister the other day." I raised an eyebrow. "She said Lauren's doing better," he continued. "Moved cities. New job. Actually working on herself." I nodded. "I hope so." And I meant it. Because here's the thing I didn't expect. I didn't need Lauren to fail in order for me to feel whole. I didn't need her regret. I didn't need revenge or validation. The peace I felt now wasn't built on comparison. It came from knowing who I was and what I deserved. Later that night, after everyone left and the house was quiet, Hannah and I sat on the couch, tired and happy. She rested her head on my shoulder and said, almost absent-mindedly, "I'm glad you didn't respond to her." "Why?" I asked. "Because," she said, "some chapters don't need an epilogue. They already taught you what they were meant to." That line stuck with me. Looking back, I understand something now that I couldn't see then. When Lauren said I wasn't valuable enough, she wasn't describing me, she was revealing herself. Her fear. Her need to feel superior. Her belief that love had to be earned through performance. Walking away wasn't weakness. It was clarity. And the irony still makes me smile, not because she came back, not because her new relationship fell apart, not because she regretted it, but because the man she thought wasn't enough became someone who no longer needed her approval at all. So if you're listening to this and you've ever been told you're not enough, too boring, too average, not ambitious or impressive or valuable enough, hear me clearly, the right person will never make you audition for your place in their life. They won't rank you, compare you, or threaten replacement. They'll choose you without hesitation, the way Hannah chose me, and the way I finally chose myself. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a comment about where you're watching from, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the strongest comeback isn't proving someone wrong, it's building a life so peaceful you never need to explain yourself again.